the last video I did actually did okay, you know. Now, yes, they are AI generated voices, and I've tried to look at the program I use that converts it into maybe someone with a West Country accent, but it's not possible at the moment. So I'm afraid we're going to have to make do with the Yanks. Now, the next one I'm going to do is who owns the treasure when it's found? You'll be surprised. I was surprised when I found out. You don't own it, nor does the landowner. In fact, not even the Portable Antiquities Scheme owns it. Someone else owns it. And if you watch this video, I got a stinking cold. You'll find out who actually owns it. Because I was really surprised. I thought, what? No. So you watch this and you'll find out who actually owns it.
Imagine this. You're out walking, maybe through a muddy field in England, or perhaps you're renovating an old house, and you find something. And it's not just old, it's ancient. Could be a handful of Roman coins, a medieval brooch, maybe a weirdly preserved piece of wood.
You get that rush.
You get that huge adrenaline rush. But then, almost immediately, this really complex question pops into your head. What is this, legally speaking? And who actually owns it?
And that moment right there, that is the exact legal flashpoint we're diving into today. Because, you know, we all hear finders keepers, but the reality in England and Wales is, well, it's governed by the Treasure Act 1996, and it is incredibly structured.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to do a proper, factual, legal deep dive. We're cutting through all the speculation.
Just the facts.
We're giving you the concrete steps, the rules, some of them are pretty shocking, and the exact criteria you need to know if you ever find something significant. This is really a shortcut to understanding that whole web of archaeology, land ownership, and the crown.
Exactly. We're pulling the details directly from the legal sources to show precisely how the law says these finds have to be handled.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. What does an object have to be to even trigger this whole legal framework? What actually defines treasure?
Well, traditionally, the definition was very restrictive. It focused almost entirely on precious metals.
Right. Gold and silver.
Gold and silver, basically. To be classified as treasure under those classic rules, an object generally had to be at least 300 years old.
Okay.
And contain 10% or more of gold or silver.
That makes sense for, you know, the history books, gold rings, silver coins, that sort of thing.
Precisely. And for coins, it gets even more specific. There are two ways in. Either you find 2 or more coins that are over 300 years old and meet that 10% precious metal threshold,
right,
or you find a bigger hoard. 10 or more coins of any metal, but they all have to be older than 300 years. It was really designed to protect these high-value hoards.
Okay, let's unpack this, because here's where it gets really interesting. That traditional definition, it had a massive blind spot, didn't it?
A huge one.
I mean, if you found a one-of-a-kind Roman iron helmet, or maybe some priceless Bronze Age pottery, it just wouldn't be treasure, because there's no gold in it.
And that's exactly why the law saw a fundamental rewrite. The 2023 Treasure Amendment Order introduced what we're calling the significant finds rule.
Right, and this is the crucial takeaway for anyone following modern archaeology. So what are the new criteria?
The new rule lets an object be classified as treasure if it meets 3 conditions, and this is regardless of whether it contains any gold or silver at all.
None at all.
None. So first, it must be at least 200 years old. Notice that's a lower age threshold than the traditional rule.
100 years lower, yeah.
Second, it must be of outstanding historical, cultural, or archaeological significance.
That second point sounds very broad. I mean, how do you even quantify outstanding significance?
That is the big question. And that's where the third criterion comes in. And it's kind of a practical gatekeeper. It must be valued, or likely to be valued, at 10,000 pounds or more. This stops every old bit of iron from clogging up the system, but it makes sure that items of real cultural importance are covered.
So a 200-year-old piece of timber from a famous shipwreck, say, or some unique bit of early industrial ironwork that could now qualify.
Absolutely. The sources are explicit. This new category covers objects made of any material. Iron, bronze, stone, bone, even wood. It's designed to protect those historically vital artifacts that just weren't made of precious metal. It shifts the focus from the material's value to the object's cultural value.
This brings us to the biggest misconception out there, the core legal reality of all this. You find one of these objects, gold or wood, doesn't matter. The first question is it mine?
And the definitive answer, which, well, it can be a shock to people who haven't looked into the act, is no.
It's just a flat no.
A flat no. If an object meets the legal definition of treasure, either the old rule or the new one, ownership is vested in the Crown immediately. That title transfers at the very moment of discovery.
So there's no gap, no period where it belongs to the finder or, say, the landowner.
None whatsoever. Legal ownership is continuous. It belongs to the Crown at all stages unless, and this is key, the Crown formally disclaims it later. It's all about protecting national heritage first.
That clarification is so important. A lot of people probably assume the coroner's inquest is the event that makes the Crown the owner.
And that's a common misunderstanding of the coroner's role. The coroner doesn't grant ownership. Their inquest just reviews all the evidence, the age, the material, the context, and then issues a formal legal ruling.
So it's a confirmation.
It's a confirmation. It officially recognizes the Crown's existing title, the one that's been in place since the moment of discovery.
So it's a formal rubber stamp on a pre-existing fact.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is the distinction here. The Crown holds the legal title, but the finder. They often have physical custody of it, at least initially, but physical custody is not ownership.
Speaking of custody, let's talk about duty. If I find something that I think might be treasure, what's my legal obligation and how fast do I have to act?
This part is completely non-negotiable. The law says that finders must report potential treasure within 14 days.
14 days of what?
Either 14 days from the discovery itself, or if you don't know what it is at first, 14 days from the moment you realize it might be treasure.
2 weeks. That feels like a really tight window, doesn't it? Especially if you're trying to figure out what you've even found. Who do you report it to?
You have to notify your local finds liaison officer, the FLO.
And for those listening who might not be familiar, what is a finds liaison officer?
The FLO is your local contact for the Portable Antiquities Scheme, the PAS. They're trained experts, usually with a museum, and their job is to record and assess these kinds of finds.
So you report to them?
You report to the FLO or the coroner directly. Usually it's done by email, phone, or there are online forms on the PAS website.
Now here's a detail that I imagine causes a lot of anxiety. Do I have to physically drive this ancient, maybe fragile artifact down to the museum within those 14 days?
No, and this is a really crucial point. You do not. The sources are very clear that the object only needs to be reported within 14 days.
Just the information.
Just the information. Once you've sent that email or made that call, you've met your legal duty. You can hold on to it physically until the FLO arranges to come and collect it.
Which means security suddenly becomes a huge issue. You could have a multi-million-pound artifact sitting in your house for months.
Precisely. And the advice is always to secure it responsibly. We're talking about a properly fixed safe or even a private safety deposit box. You are basically the temporary custodian for the Crown's property.
That sets the stage perfectly.
Yeah.
So let's walk everyone through the formal journey from that initial 14-day report to the final decision. This is where the bureaucracy starts, but understanding the steps is key.
Okay, so once it's reported, the FLO takes over. Step 1 is the FLO assessment. They'll examine the object, research its context, and decide if it's likely to meet the criteria to be referred to the coroner.
So the FLO is the first filter. If they think it's just, I don't know, a rusty Victorian tool, the process stops.
Exactly. But if it does look like treasure, it moves on to the coroner's inquest. That's the formal legal ruling we talked about where its status as treasure is confirmed.
And once that status is confirmed, it's officially priceless heritage. What happens then?
Step 3 is museum interest. Information gets circulated among relevant museums, the British Museum, local museums, and so on. They meet and decide if they want to acquire it for the public.
And if a museum does want it, how do they decide how much to pay for it?
That leads to the really important step 4, valuation. The object is sent to the Treasure Valuation Committee, the TVC.
And they're independent.
Completely independent. It's a body of experts, archaeologists, valuers, legal experts, and their only job is to assign a fair market value to the item.
And that valuation, that's what sets the reward payment.
Yes. Step 5 is acquisition and reward. If a museum acquires it, they pay the amount set by the TVC, and that money becomes a reward for the finder and the landowner.
And what if? What if no museum wants it? Maybe it's unique, but it just doesn't fit any collections.
Then you get to the final step, disclaiming. If no museum is interested, the Crown can choose to disclaim the item. It relinquishes its ownership.
And then?
Then the title passes to the finder and the landowner. They're then free to do whatever they want with it.
Let's focus on that reward step, because this is the great incentive, isn't it? It's what makes people report finds, honestly, even though the Crown takes ownership. How is that money split?
The rules here are very clear. Customarily, the reward is split 50-50
50-50 between who?
between the finder and the landowner.
So if the TVC says a find is worth £100,000, the finder gets $50,000 and the landowner gets $50,000. Assuming they're different people, of course.
That is the default standard, yes. There are some exceptions. If there's a different agreement already in place, like a contract between a metal detecting club and a farmer, that can override it. Or, very rarely, the coroner might direct a different split.
So what here is that the reward is based on valuation to incentivize honesty. It's not compensation for losing ownership.
Because you never had ownership to begin with.
Exactly. The legal ownership belonged to the Crown from the second the shovel hit the dirt.
It's a system that really tries to balance protecting heritage with the practical need to get the public to report things.
This deep dive has really pulled back the curtain on a fascinating process. So let's summarize the key takeaways for you, the listener. First and foremost, ownership of treasure vests immediately in the Crown.
You don't get a chance to claim it. Second, you have that strict 14-day window to report your find to the fine's liaison officer. Remember, reporting is the duty, not handing it over.
Third, the law is moving past just gold and silver. That 2023 amendment is huge. Finds made of wood or iron can now be treasure if they're over 200 years old, significant and worth over £10,000.
And finally, the standard outcome is a reward payment based on an independent valuation, which is customarily split 50-50 between the finder and the landowner.
If we connect all this to the bigger picture, the system is this really sophisticated structure to manage Britain's past. It minimizes treasure hunting for profit by guaranteeing Crown ownership.
But it supports archaeology by making sure finders are rewarded enough to bring these critical pieces of history into the light. It's a symbiotic relationship, really, even if it is highly regulated.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on. Given this new 2023 definition, which allows objects made of, say, bone or wood to be treasure, but requires them to be of outstanding historical or cultural significance to hit that high valuation, how do you think that process of determining significance, which can be very subjective, is going to evolve? Are we going to see more legal challenges as these non-precious finds become highly prized? Something to consider next time you think about the value of history.